Hi everyone and welcome to BrickCats. Today we're taking a look at the Jerac TIE LN Starfighter version 1. Version 2 was recently released, inconveniently right after I finished this one, so I'm going to do a review anyway because in theory a lot of people will still have instructions for version 1 and perhaps they have elected not to purchase version 2 yet. As always, I greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel or give the video a like. Your support means more great mock reviews in the future. The TIE fighters, of course, form the backbone of the Empire's fighter corps, defending Scarif against Red Squadron and the Alliance fleet in Rogue One, chasing down Red and Gold squadrons in A New Hope, defending the Death Star, pursuing the Millennium Falcon through the asteroid field and around Cloud City in Empire Strikes Back, participating in the Battle of Endor against the combined Rebel fleet, and many more space battles, both canon and not. In my reviews, I offer my opinions on aesthetics, parts issues you might want to look out for, the build experience, the model's integrity, and I offer a conclusion. If you're watching this, I assume you have bought the instructions or are interested in buying them, and I assume a basic level of familiarity with Bricklink's ordering system. Lastly, my disclaimer on this and all my mock reviews is that I only use genuine LEGO bricks. I always purchase the instructions for myself for my own personal enjoyment, and in the hopes that my advice will make your experience more enjoyable and or less expensive. This TIE fighter is unmatched in appearance in my humble opinion, and Jerac makes extremely effective use of the 3x3x2 round corner brick to create the classic eyeball shape. Use of the 6x6 dish on the top adds even more accuracy, and the brick-built wings have the appropriate subdivisions created with plates radiating from the central support. The brick-built wings themselves are very impressive, they're also very sturdy, and while some may prefer plates, plate-built wings would likely be just as thick to get the same level of detailing on both sides here. The twin ion engines are represented with these red modified plate with bar pieces. And while I don't have a minifigure in there right now, the cockpit is appropriately crowded, and a minifigure does indeed fit in there, just so. There's enough greebling in the wing joint here to be interesting without overdoing it. And there's really good use of these slope and wedge pieces along the sides here to recreate this somewhat complicated shape. There are only two areas I thought could have been a little better, and the first are these gaps in the wings here. You can see my hand behind. And these are a little distracting only because the rest of the model is so tight and everything else is so well covered up. And luckily, this is one plate high, or one tile high, because the plate won't fit with the stud. So you can actually, like on this side, if you can see, I put in 1x3 tiles in black to cover up just a little bit more of the gap. And if you do it on both sides, you get both sides of the gap. So relatively inexpensive modification for admittedly a relatively small problem. The second, also fairly insignificant, but I found if you use these 1x1 round quarter tiles on the studs of the 3x3x2 corner bricks, it rounds out the shape of the cockpit just a little bit more. The cockpit is trans black, so you don't really see the corners here, but if it comes off, I'll just take one off to show you. It is a little distracting, and I'll put a comparison photo of all four of them off versus all four of them on. And I don't take credit for this. I saw this on maybe Instagram or something. And unfortunately, I can't remember the user. I should have taken a screenshot. So not my idea, but whoever came up with it is a very good one. This model uses 89 elements and 777 parts. And like Jerac's other builds, there's no Technic at all in this model. And since it's fairly thin in all its dimensions, meaning that pretty much every piece has an edge showing, there's not much room for color substitution here. The wings call for a number of 1x10, part 6111, 1x4, part 3010, and 1x6, part 3009, and 1x8 part 3008 bricks in black. These can all be subdivided with smaller units if you already have them, for example, two 1x2s for one 1x4, without any impact to the end result. You can see here I substituted some 1x1s for 1x2. I think there's some more subdivisions that I can't recall off the top of my head. But basically, as long as you've got some overlap to kind of give it a little additional strength, you're going to be fine with substituting smaller units. Similarly, the 1x4 part 2431, 1x6 part 6636, and 1x8 part 4162 tiles in light bluish gray can also be subdivided appropriately. These form the edges of the wings and the support struts for each solar panel. So you'll just lose some of the smoothness along here if you use smaller tiles. The 8 brick round corner 3x3x2 dome top, part 88293 in light bluish gray, is quite expensive in the United States on Bricklink right now. And to get all 8 of them from one store typically runs you over $1 per part. I suggest buying these from Lego Bricks and Pieces. Shipping is cheap. It's about, I think it's $2.85, $2.95 or something. And this element is currently available for 52 cents. The only downside is that it takes a while to get to you. In my experience here on the East Coast of the United States, Bricks and Pieces orders take about 2 weeks, start to finish. And that's currently in June 2021. Previously, earlier this year, it was taking about 2 months. If you're planning to build the Interceptor and the TIE Advance, you need eight of them for each of those models. So if you order 24, you could save a fair bit on the cost of all 3. And fun fact, the shipping charge remains flat no matter how much you order. And I have ordered some big orders from Bricks and Pieces, and the shipping has never been more than $2.95 or whatever it is. 16 of the 32 plate modified 1x4 with 2 studs without groove, that's this part right here, part 92593, could be substituted with 1x4 tiles, part 2431, or 1x4 plates, part 3710 in light bluish gray, at the cost of a few extra visible studs or a few less extra visible studs. You don't want to substitute the other 16 because they go right underneath them, and you need that one stud to secure it. The major expense from this model comes from the 6x6 inverted dish, no studs with bar handle with Star Wars TIE Advanced hatch pattern, part 18675 PV01. These are very expensive these days, upwards of $35, and they only came in set 75021 and set 75150. Both also rather expensive because they're retired at this point. I will say if you can find a cheap 75021 for $20 or $30, you'll be able to use a good number of the parts for this model, and that's actually how I got all of the hatches for my TIE Fighter builds. One logical substitute is the unprinted disc in light bluish gray, part 18675. You could also consider the TIE Striker set 75154 hatch, part 18675 PV08, which seems to be less expensive but not exactly readily available either. And from reading some of Jerac's comments on version 2, the increasing rarity of this top dome was a significant driver for the redesign, which uses the 4x4 dish found in the more recent TIE fighters. That's part 3960 PB051. And finally, the round 2x2 with bottom stud holder with black Star Wars TIE Fighter pattern, part 14769 PB025 can also be a little bit expensive. It's nice to have, but even a solid color 2x2 round tile in dark bluish gray would look good here to save on cost, or light bluish gray, I suppose. This is not a particularly challenging build, but since you're basically only working with 2 colors, light bluish gray and black, I highly recommend doing some sorting beforehand to separate the various elements if you've got the time and the space to do it. The instructions don't have any highlighting for which piece gets added, which is a bit of an issue again because there isn't much variation in color, but all the critical steps are fairly clear. The wing assemblies require you to do them both 4 and 8 times, and this is noted at the end of the section. And as usual, I think that's more helpful at the beginning, but it's only a couple pages, so it's not as big of a deal as with other models I've built where one subassembly you have to repeat is like 20 pages long. So it's easy enough to just scroll back up. And the only connection problems I had were with the wing border sections. This whole wrapping is essentially one big piece, and the connection you make to join them together, usually right here, it's really tight. And I had to apply quite a lot of pressure to get this final clip and bar connection to work. And as you can kind of see, it's not quite holding. So I rebuilt it a couple of times to make sure I wasn't missing something, but both wings had the same issue multiple times, so I'm reasonably sure it wasn't me. If anyone else had this experience, please let me know. I'm curious to see if it is just me, which is, as usual, very possible. But anyway, it does go together eventually if you apply enough force in a careful way, so everything just doesn't explode on you. I was a little surprised that it was so difficult to get that last connection there. This model is very solid almost everywhere. The wings both stud into the frame and get secured with these support beams around the edge. And the border pieces, while they're tight, they seem very solid. I'm not sure if the pressure will affect this clip over time. Oh, you can see this one kind of came off. So yeah, wings, very solid. I wouldn't pick it up by the wings just because it ends up applying pressure on this connection here, and it kind of just creates this big lever, so you end up pulling off everything. So that's not great. To give you an example, like you can hold this by the wing. Nope, you cannot. The central pylon is very solid. You can hear parts flexing, but that's not going anywhere. And the way you grab it usually is just top and bottom, and you can swoosh this around all day and you're going to be fine. The only real fragile part of this model is the cockpit and laser assembly, and it's a really complicated subassembly with mostly droid arm connections. The cockpit dish sits at the end of this long droid arm, and that in turn connects to this bar with clip piece down there. It does close, and there's a surprising amount of friction in this connection, at least surprising to me. But the problem is, as you can see, this comes off all the time. It's kind of loosey-goosey in there. And it's really hard to put this back on because you're basically trying to connect this to that one bar handle back there, which is also rotating about this plate with clip back in there. So it's a little difficult, fairly annoying. I'm not even going to try and do it here because, as you all know, when I try to do things on the camera, I fail miserably. That's the only real quote unquote problem with this. And again, in version 2, I believe that Jerac has fixed this. And just because it's all connected to the same subassembly, the laser cannons tend to rotate out of alignment fairly easily. But that one's easy to fix. So overall, except for the cockpit windscreen, this is very solid. So in conclusion, Jerac's version 1 TIE Fighter is an excellent model. With everything as specified, the parts from the Bricklink algorithm were giving me anywhere between 4 and 6 stores and $195 and $207 before shipping and tax. And that's between $215, approximately $215 and $247 after shipping and tax. And that's with no substitutions at all. If you replace that expensive 6x6 dish with the plain version, I get an extremely reasonable 6 stores and $117 before shipping and tax, or about $147 after. And if you built other Star Wars models or just have a spares bin, you're likely to have some of the pieces anyway. And if you can take out, or if you can buy the 3x3 buy 2 corner bricks and get them from Lego, you can likely shave another $7 or $8 off the total and possibly reduce the store count by 1. So like I said, I don't think instructions for version 1 of the TIE Fighter are available, and those who purchase version 1 should have an email, perhaps in your junk folder, from Brick Vault with a link to buy the new instructions for half price, and that includes people who bought the TIE Fighter collection. So the answer to the obvious question is yes, I will be building the new version, and a comparison will follow. However, in my opinion, especially if you already have the 6x6 dish or can get a good deal on a used 750G1, this is a reasonably economical TIE fighter, and like I said, it looks really, really good. The proportions are spot on, and I do have the official Lego version here. Well, a official Lego version. This is set 75211 from Solo, and you can see there's just really no contest as far as the shape. I mean, obviously the Solo TIE fighter, the official set, is going to be a little sturdier, but in terms of appearance, if that's what you're going for, I think you got to go with this one. Thanks as always for taking the time to watch my review. If you've built this model, you have something to share that I left out, or you have a question about something I didn't cover, please leave them below in the comments. Also consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, or following me on Instagram. I hope to see you back next time.